Hello there. The EU Chief Brexit negotiator has written a Brexit extension letter to UK opposition party leaders. Firstly, please subscribe and like this video to give my channel a boost, and I'm always uploading new content, so please do check back daily. In a way that goes against the EU interfering in other countries' domestic politics, the EU Chief Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier has written a letter to UK opposition party leaders saying basically that the EU is ready to extend the Brexit Implementation Period. And what about them? Well, actually, it is a reply to the letter that they sent to him on the 15th of May, but Barnier's reply does send a very direct message that the EU is open to an extension, during which the UK would be unable to formulate its own post-coronavirus policies and will still have to pay huge sums of money into the Brussels coffers to help them recover from the invisible enemy first. Now, just to recap, Ian Blackford, the SNP leader in Westminster, wrote a letter to Michel Barnier on the 15th of May, and it was signed up to by the Lib Dem co-leader Ed Davey, Liz Saville-Roberts of Plaid Cymru, Colm Eastwood of the Social Democratic and Labour Party, Caroline Lucas from the Green Party, and Stephen Farry of the Alliance Party. Now, I talked about this letter at the time in a video called UK Politicians Call for a Brexit Extension. And in that letter, the UK politicians said stuff like, "A consensus is taking shape and we hope the UK government will soon recognise reality." You can imagine bombastic Blackford saying this in the Chamber of the Commons, couldn't you? It is now in all our common interests to agree and secure an extension to the transition period. This will enable these detailed and defining negotiations to be conducted at a time when, we hope, the efforts of national governments and the European Union will not be engaged solely with dealing with the dreadful COVID-19 epidemic. And also that it is vital that the Tory government does the only responsible thing and accepts a 2-year extension to the transition period. Crashing out with a bad deal or no deal in the middle of the coronavirus crisis would deal a double hammer blow to the economy just when we will need all the help we can get to save jobs, businesses and living standards. As well as, polls consistently show that the overwhelming majority of people in Scotland and across the UK want to see an extension to the Brexit transition period, and there is growing consensus across political parties. It's time for the UK government to act. Now, this was, of course, a plea from our rejoiners for help from the EU to try and get Brussels to put out some really positive and friendly messages that these pro-EU UK politicians could use to try and convince the people of the UK that we should extend Brexit, so giving the Rejoin campaign time to marshal what forces they have left. I would have expected the EU, if it was truly disinterested in dabbling in other countries' internal politics, to have sent a one-liner back saying, "Thank you for your letter." But what Barnier actually wrote back to all of them is as follows. "Thank you for your letter of the 15th of May 2020. I remain keen on and interested in hearing the views of British political parties and stakeholders in order to appreciate all dimensions of the national debate. The European Union remains determined to build a new and ambitious partnership with the United Kingdom in the short time that is available, given your government's repeated statements that it will not agree to an extension of the transition period. I take note of your views on a possible extension of the transition period. Such an extension of up to 1 or 2 years can be agreed jointly by the two parties. The European Union has always said that we remain open on this matter. Any extension decision has to be taken by the Joint Committee before the 1st of July and must be accompanied by an agreement on a financial contribution by the United Kingdom. Regardless of the extension issue, please rest assured that the EU side will continue to do its utmost to reach an ambitious and balanced partnership agreement with the United Kingdom, along the lines agreed with the government of the United Kingdom in the political declaration in October 2019. My team and I remain at your disposal for any further exchanges. Now, as a negotiator for the other side, he should be talking to the negotiators on our side, not attempting to sideline them. And that's surely what he should have written in his letter. Not that he wants to appreciate all dimensions of the national debate, when that's palpably not the case when the Labour Party, as the biggest opposition party, is not involved. And appreciating all the dimensions of the national debate is our government's concern, not his. And isn't it also strange that this letter was sent just as the furore over the Dominic Cummings did he or didn't he circus was at its height? As I've said before, thank goodness the lockdown is stopping that motley bunch of UK politicians from travelling across the EU intent on doing their best to scupper the Brexit negotiations. And as to lockdown, what has Mr Blackford been up to himself? With the heraldscotland.com website reporting today that the SNP's Westminster leader Ian Blackford has come under the spotlight after it emerged he travelled over 600 miles from London to his home in Skye 3 days after lockdown and then went into self-imposed isolation. Blackford does say that he only isolated from his wife as a precaution given the prevalence of the virus in London. But surely then the safest thing for all the people of Skye overall would be for him to have just stayed in London. After all, unlike Dominic Cummings, he doesn't appear to have had any special childcare needs. But I don't see much of a press outcry about this, because the press is on his side of the left-right and Brexit political divides, aren't they? Anyway, to get back to the topic of Barnier's letter, Ian Blackford has interpreted it as an offer of an extension from the EU and said, Boris Johnson must finally put his responsibilities to jobs, living standards and the economy first and urgently agree the 2-year extension on offer to the transition period. It would be madness to pile a Brexit crisis on top of the coronavirus crisis we already face, with unemployment soaring, businesses shedding jobs and many struggling to survive. Time is running out. There is just a month left to agree an extension to prevent the UK crashing out with a devastating bad deal or a catastrophic no deal. If the Prime Minister fails to agree an extension, he will be responsible for every job lost, every income slashed and every business that goes under as a result of his bad Brexit deal. The SNP will continue to press for a long extension to protect Scotland's economy, but the only way to guarantee Scotland's interests and protect our place at the heart of Europe is to become an independent country. As ever, the pro-EU types are revelling in anything anti-Brexit, as expected. And Lib Dem leadership hopeful Layla Moran said, The transition period was designed to give us time to secure a trade deal and make preparations for it to come into effect. That time has already and understandably been decimated by the coronavirus response. This makes a dangerous no-deal Brexit more likely at the end of the year, unless we extend the transition period. I am urging the Prime Minister to put his pride aside, tackle the crisis in front of him, and take the extension he's being offered. She's another MP who's interpreted this as an offer to extend the Brexit Implementation Period. Now, this is not a direct offer, as that can only be made by the UK government or the EU Commission via the Joint Committee and agreed by that committee. This is an EU official successfully stirring the UK political pot, and we must not be distracted by such shenanigans. So it's reassuring to hear that the UK Prime Minister's official spokesman has responded to the letter by saying, There is no change to the government's position. The transition period will end on December the 31st. And speaking before a Commons committee on the future relationship with the EU recently, the UK Chief Brexit negotiator David Frost said that it was the firm policy of the government to not extend, and that if asked to by the EU we would not agree to it. "And I take that as a given," he said. "I think we have always put a lot of emphasis on economic and political freedom at the end of this year and on avoiding ongoing significant payments into the EU budget. And of course, those things are accomplished by ending the transition period at the end of the year. And too right too." Anyway, if you want to hear more from me, please don't forget to subscribe and also press that little bell, or you won't get any notifications. And if you want to see more of me, buy a mug with my mug on it. So what do you think about this Barnier letter? Please share and comment, and thank you for watching.